All right, everybody, welcome back to Off the Grid on the Record. Today, I'm joined with Dario Santis, founder of Tweenlin. So today, he's telling us on how he's building something I think every founder, operator, and enterprise leader wishes they had right now, which is a way to cut through meeting chaos and actually make collaboration feel human again. When I first heard about this, I was kind of blown away. I didn't know it was even possible. So I'm getting really excited for you guys to hear about it. And we'll talk about the real cost of meeting overload, how AI can actually make workflows and work days flow smoother, and what it takes to sell into some of the world's biggest organizations. So, Dario, thank you so much for being here. How's it going?
Yeah, like, thanks for having me, and thanks everyone who's listening to this episode. It's exciting. It's an honor for me, and I'm doing great as always.
That's amazing. Where are you calling from today?
We are in San Jose. I'm in San Jose, California, in the heart of Silicon Valley. Kind of a little bit on the lower edge, not really the heart, the center, but the southern edge of it. But we are, yes, in Silicon Valley.
That's amazing. Well, before we get into all the meat and potatoes of everything, outside of building the business, what's keeping you busy lately?
Well, building the business.
Fair enough.
It's always, I'm always thinking, when you start up your company and you've been working constantly for 4 years, you gave up every possible hobby that you can think of, that becomes your background thought constantly. So if I go to bed and I'm going to sleep, I think about the venture. I think about what's my next best move is. When I wake up in the morning, I think, okay, what should I do today for the business? I gave up all my hobbies in the last 4 years, and I'm happy about that because this is what I want to do.
That's incredible. That's a lovely mindset.
It's like, is balancing your day-to-day operations and your roadmap, your long-term.
How'd you go from Italy to San Jose and then end up starting this whole company?
Well, I was initially working for large corporations in Europe, especially in Italy, and I've seen that the only people who were going up in the ranks were either related to a former vice president or the son of the CEO's lawyer or something. All great people, by the way, but me coming from a different dynasty, there are all physicians in my family. My outlook wasn't very good, and I saw a lot of 50 years old people having troubles to find, alienated a little bit in their day by day. And I said, I don't want to be there for that long. So I did an MBA, and that opened up a lot of doors, including then coming to the US through some of the contacts. And that's how, I moved the first time to the US, and I landed in a company which is still around, one of the pioneers of virtual assistants in the Valley. It's called No Hold. So shout out to No Hold. And they had these chatbots for sales and customer service that were very successful, serving really large, giant corporations with that. Well, deflecting contact center calls through AI. That was my first job back in 2012 in the US. And then from there, I've been, I can say distinguishing myself and, growing up as a product person up to the point that I became a director level at Cisco and managed people. I did a lot of cool stuff until my entrepreneurial fire, which has always been with me, pushed me to do something on my own.
That's amazing.
The rest is history.
So let's talk about that history. Walk us through what your AI actually does. How does it magically create space for conversations without adding more scheduling headaches? And then we'll obviously break down where, the idea came from, but give us, like, as if I'm a 12-year-old, give it to me straight.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, imagine you are an extremely sought out person in an organization. Everybody wants a piece of you because you're important, or a lot of things are passing through you, decisions, etc. So everybody is trying to get a hold of you. And in a large organization, that number of people is really high. So they start sending you a message, maybe on Teams, on your company corporate chat, and at that point you start seeing new messages popping up. But if you don't see them right away, they go out of the visible stack, and new messages accumulate, and that makes things fall through the cracks. And if somebody wants something from you, the only chance to get some FaceTime with you is scheduling a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And so they open up the scheduling assistant, and they perhaps tomorrow at lunchtime, they send you a meeting invitation, hoping that you're going to hop on that bridge. And perhaps a meeting invitation clashes with something you already have in your calendar. And that meeting is important because it's a preparation of a demo that you have to give to a very large customer. And now I have to play calendar Tetris with my calendar to make room for that meeting. This is all what some authors call sludge. It's things that slow you down. I'm paid to do all this coordination internally, which doesn't make sense. And does it have to be so hard to talk to your colleagues? If you want to see it from another perspective, Jarek, is too many meetings in a medium or large organization make it almost impossible to talk to people on the fly. The only solution to talk is scheduling more meetings. It's a vicious cycle.
It is.
And there's a ton of inefficiencies coming from that. Slow decision making, slow customer response. A customer asks you for something, you're selling a complex product, and now you have to go back to your organization and talk to 7 people before giving the answer to that customer. Those are 7 30-minute meetings in 2 weeks. And those should be faster conversations because it's in everybody's interest to generate more value for your customers and more revenue for the company faster. If you are a consultant, for example, you have a certain amount of billable hours. If you start putting meetings for internal coordination, you can bill less for the same amount of time to your customers. And so this is a very clear problem for me that I was living every day. So one day I just said, if I had the magic wand, which in this case is a pen, and what would be the ideal engagement experience? Well, I think about, I want to talk to Jarek, and then that happens magically at my earliest and your earliest convenience combined through the right channel. So you don't have to guess whether you're available on with a regular phone call or on WhatsApp or on your Microsoft Teams or Zoom meeting or whatever. It just happens.
Fair enough.
We decided to build an AI that does exactly that. So you can reap all the benefits from less calendar clutter during the day and faster decisions, faster customer responses.
Fair enough. And I mean, one thing I want to just cut you off here because one thing that I think we talked about earlier is how you talked about how COVID shifted everything, right? I mean, suddenly remote work turned every conversation into a meeting. I mean, what did you see firsthand that, pushed you towards doing what you did?
Look, I lived that. This is a phenomenal question, by the way. Thanks so much for asking it. I lived that personally. At the time I was working at Cisco, a huge corporation, of course. And with COVID and the lockdown, you started talking to only your immediate collaborator within your team, your larger team. And you completely lost the water cooler conversation, that coffee machine conversation where cross-pollination happens. You were breathing the air into the organization. You grasp, soft hints of what is going on. You understand what's going on within a certain organization. And you're also aligning cultures, because those are the conversation where certain messages spread across different teams. And then I saw that different teams started creating their own subculture and their own way of handling the lockdown. For example, you may have the central HR promoting a certain way of handling HR-related matters, workplace matters and policies during COVID. And then subcultures at a team level overriding some of that and stemming on their own path towards, and this kind of misaligns people. There's also a lot of stuff that I saw, the new hires during COVID. They had no idea where they were. They had no doors to knock on. They were assigned some mentors, senior people, but those senior people were not available because they were in meetings every day. And perhaps they replied their Teams messages the following day, were almost impossible to bring on a call. And that has a big impact on the ability for a new hire to ramp up fast and understand company culture, etc. So I've seen this firsthand, and it's still unresolved, by the way. It's still an unresolved problem.
Fair enough. It's a difficult thing.
Yeah, man. Mandate to return to office and people keep working from home because those subcultural differences among teams to say, yeah, okay, you should come to the office 3 times a week, but you know what? I'm your director. I'm fine if you work from home. We don't have to tell anyone. It's full of these
nuances.
Yeah, these scenarios.
Fair enough. I mean, one thing that I'm very curious about is, when you sit down with these massive organizations, right, like 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 employees, what's the most painful symptom that they describe? Is it burnout, slow decision-making, or like you're saying, is it the culture breakdowns?
I think it's hard to pinpoint a single effect that impacts the most negatively an organization of that size. And probably it varies depending on the size. I would say that when I saw some of the calendars, and in my work, I talk to customers and I see their calendars. Some of the customers who are showing me their calendars, for example, middle managers in really large organization of 100,000 employees or more, I saw some horrendous situations. There was this middle manager of IT of this large corporation in Europe. He had 4 to 5 meetings scheduled for every single time slot for the entire week.
Wow.
For the entire week, Monday to Friday, 4 or 5 for each slot. It seems that he multiplied his calendar by 4 to 5.
That's a nightmare.
And one of the large technology companies, one of the largest actually, was talking to a principal product manager, and he showed me that at 8 a.m. that morning, he had 7 meetings happening at the same time, 8 a.m. in the morning.
My goodness.
How do you handle that? There's a lot of companies investing in AI to play calendar Tetris, moving things, freeing up spaces. But when you have that type of calendar, you don't have any free space to move things around. It's substantially useless approach. The only solution to too many meetings is less meetings.
Fair enough.
And this is a stance that we've taken as an organization, as a startup, and that paid off. After a lot of
It's the classic
sweat.
quality over quantity, argument that you always hear.
Yeah, sort of, yeah. Yeah.
But one thing I do like is how I know you've quoted numbers like 4% measurable productivity boost and even 40% more fluid work days. How did you measure those outcomes? And when you saw everything working, what was that reaction for you like?
Let's differentiate a little bit, right? Let me give you a little hint of where we're going as an organization with our roadmap, right?
I like hints.
Until now, until now, we've been more than a hint. I'm going to tell you a little bit. Until now, our solution has been able to deflect meetings for, one-to-one meetings. People who want to talk to each other, just one-to-one, which people don't realize. But this is the highest cost thing that you may have, during the day in terms of coordination cost. Because if you have two people, your probability to be the scheduler of that conversation is 50%.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you are in a meeting of 5 people, it's 20% probability. You do it much more often than you realize when you're scheduling one-to-one meetings, which is that's your most frequent coordination cost.
Mm-hmm.
One-to-one meetings are about 37%, more than 37. Let's say 40. That 40 that you mentioned. Okay, 40% of the total meetings in the calendar of medium to large companies are one-to-one meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Those ones can be deflected. If you transform them in serendipitous conversations that happen magically at the right time for the people involved, which allows you to not schedule, you're gonna have that conversation faster, and you're not going to have a constraint in your calendar in the future, and you haven't had to spend time today to create that constraint in the future, procrastinating a decision. But you just
Fair
say, I
enough.
want to talk to this guy, and talk right away, as soon as possible. So that's a big gain. That gain is measurable. When I'm scheduling a meeting, when I'm going back and forth with, hey, Jarek, when can I talk to you? Back and forth. Those messages have a cost. And scheduling a meeting also has a cost. Now, that merely measurable time I'm spending to coordinate with you, so I'm not talking about the additional revenue that you can close because you're faster, but only the time that you are wasting today in terms of coordination cost to handle those 37% of meetings, 40% of one-to-one meetings that you have on your calendar. Only that, if you take the monetary value of that coordination cost divided by the overall cost of your workforce, it gives you 4% on average. Now, this is the hint.
Interesting.
We are expanding Tweenlin as we speak to support up to 6 people meetings.
Wow.
On the fly.
That's huge.
6 people conversation on the fly. By the way, also across different organizations, which is an unsolved problem today. Now that when you are expanding it to up to 6 meetings, you have the potential to deflect up to 82% of the meetings in your calendar. And that corresponds to an efficiency increase, not for 8.3% potential. Then, of course, you have to adopt that paradigm. You start with one-on-one, you expand to 2, 3 people, 4, 5, 6. When you embrace this new way of working, you see all those calendar events crumbling from your calendar, and you have free space. Free space allows higher number of people to be available at the same time. So yeah, we'll support up to 6, but if you're a busy company, you make a wish to talk to 6 people, chances are your probability is so slim today that you're probably not going to talk in the time frame that you want. But imagine in a future where calendars are mostly empty, unless it's a lot of people meetings or external people who don't use our paradigm. Now, your empty calendar allows for a much higher probability to sync the availability of more people.
Fair enough.
Talking too much. Next question.
No. I mean, I love it because it's such an interesting idea. Everyone deals with it, but I haven't seen anything even remotely close to this. So, I mean, in my experience, I deal with a lot of, like C-suite owner, founder type people, but I mean, I think in these bigger organizations, you'll have a better, way to answer and take a look at this scenario, because I always wonder, like, have you found that middle managers and employees embrace it faster than executives, or would you say it's the other way around?
Well, the bottoms up is better. And I'll tell you why. Because executives usually have solved the problem by paying a full-time executive assistant to filter their calls and handle their calendar. Now, what is usually not considered is the executive assistant has to know what you want. So there's a coordination between you and the executive assistant, which is a cost for you, executive. And then you are paying an executive assistant to do all that repetitive work for you. But they tend not to see the opportunity immediately. Certain executives.
Mm-hmm.
Other executives with executive assistants, they see it right away. They say, oh, I love this. I see a lot of potential. This happens especially in consulting. When I'm talking to a partner of a consulting firm or a legal firm or whatever, then they see the value of I free up time on my calendar to bill more to customers.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big ROI for me because perhaps I'm charging $800 an hour. So if I free you up 5 more hours a month, you're billing $4,000 more,
Exactly.
which pays 2 orders of magnitude the amount of subscription you pay for Tweenlin. So this is kind of the
idea. Fair enough. Well, I want to talk about, how you mentioned in our chat that a lot of your growth so far has come through relationships and networks, which is, pretty ironic. But I mean, what's working best in getting in front of these large companies? How do you get in contact with them? How do you start these relationships? And what kind of conversation is the best, started to show these companies that this is something that they really need?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are at a stage as a company is in the early stages of growth, serving these large corporations. I'm fortunate enough to have a ton of contacts accumulated over the years, both in Europe and in the US. So we are using referrals to get in front of the right people or circulate certain collaterals that allow these executives or owners, for example, operations, COOs, to really get a good feeling of what Tweenlin can do for them.
Mm-hmm.
This is the way that has been working. I've tried LinkedIn ads, Facebook ads. I've tried driving with content. You get good opening rates, really good opening rates, but there's not much click through. Unless you surgically find the right buyer that then is kind of, okay, I'm the decision maker here, really interested in this, I'll give you my email. But that doesn't happen because the decision maker usually is so high up that they're not giving you their email. That's
exactly. They're not giving you the time of day.
They're not giving you the time of day. And the lower end people who have the problem, which kind of ties with your previous question, they're usually more receptive, especially if they make a lot of calls. A program manager, for example, that it's constantly chasing the team to get the latest update to create a deck to give to the VP, or an account manager that is orchestrating a response to a customer. Those people are very receptive, but they don't have the decision-making power to make that happen. So you have to bring it to the operations people and make a business case out of that. So it's less touches if you want. And for each touch, there's a preventive work that you have to do. There's a work that you have to do to figure out how to position your service at best to allow these companies to achieve their goals. Sometimes, you go out in the news and see what their priorities for the year are and see how your solution aligns with that. And you create specific collaterals to then socialize with them. And this tends to work with a good hit rate because we You're showing that we've done our homework, we understand your business, we know what we can do for you. We're all enterprise people, and that clicks with a good rate. Sometimes you use AI. AI gives you big hands with that. You can go
It's
and
true.
a 10K and the latest reports, and you say, hey, go check the news of company X and see and give me some ideas on how to position my service for that company. And sometimes, you get a little bit of hallucination, but sometimes you get some really good insights.
Exactly. Well, I want to kind of touch on that too, because I mean, do you feel like there's a ceiling to relying on personal networks? And at some point, you'll
Of course.
need to build a repeatable outbound or content or, even like an ad or some kind of predictable lead flow?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we know the answer to that. Of course. So phase one, you leverage on your network because it's your best bet. In the end, your company isn't that reputable or well known yet to be able to generate click through that then becomes an opportunity. So you're
That
putting
makes
your
sense.
own reputation on the line.
Very
They
true.
will talk to you because they know you professionally, they know who you are, they trust you. So that is
Amazing.
with lack of trust on your brand, which has to be built, then you leverage your own personal trust to say, hey, you know me, I'm not gonna sell you a lemon. This is something that you're going to enjoy, and we're gonna make this ride as smooth as possible, minimize the costs for you, make sure that we come up with a measurable pilot projects for your organization that hits these objectives in this amount of time.
That makes sense. I mean, on the topic of that too, then, if you could design your ideal customer acquisition strategy in the next 12 months, what would that look like?
Well, I would say that throughout the years, barely scratched the surface of all the possible people in my network I could rely on to get in front of some of the buyers. So in the next 12 months, there is going to be a mix of specific, continuing with exploring your network and perhaps ramping up on with larger deals that are coming into the pipeline thanks to compliance. We've done recently ISO 27001, SOC 2, Type 2 is coming, and these are enabling larger deals. Then we're going to have the resources soon to scale also marketing operations and start exploring more lead generation avenues
Hmm.
and create a funnel substantially
Exactly.
from different sources of content and advertising, and then figure out automation there to fill in the pipeline and having account executives pick up new leads, qualified leads, and have conversations that will
Hmm.
come. We are probably 2, 3 larger deals far from that point in time
Hmm.
right now.
Fair enough. I mean, just to kind of slowly phase out, then, I mean, you've built something that touches tens of thousands of employees' workdays. What's been the biggest lesson you've learned as a founder in this journey?
The biggest lesson is probably that you don't fail if you don't give up.
That's huge. I like that. How's that applied in your story then?
Let me give you an example. We started more than 4 years ago with an idea. We looked for money in the second half of 2021 when the interest rates started spiking. We had some prototype apps at that point, but it wasn't the right moment to raise money. We saw other companies with somewhat similar concept to ours raising a lot of money,
Hmm.
but then getting into that over a hyper-growth path that ultimately ended up dismantling the initial vision and pivoting into a red oceans where it's a safe bet for returning money to investors. Instead, what we did is we put our own money, all skin in the game. We supported operations, myself, my co-founder, and a few others for 4 years, from zero to initial and some good initial feedback of certain kinds of people, not all professionals, to building a transactable offer in the market for enterprises that was so original that we became Gartner Cool Vendors in digital workplace applications in end of 2024, which is a incredible achievement for a few people who put their own money on the line to build something.
Exactly.
If we gave up by looking at if we raised money first, and if we gave up on our initial product concept because we saw other similar concept pivoting into a calendar assistant, we wouldn't have achieved what we achieved right now.
That makes sense.
That ties with the fact that we didn't give up on our initial North Star. It's our initial vision. Once you envision a future that is compelling, that makes a lot of sense, you envision a new way of working that is so much better, 10x better than what you're doing today in terms of the activity, ability to quickly communicate, making decisions, driving value internally in a medium to large organization. That becomes, if you stick to that and you build incrementally, no matter how long it takes to get to that point, you're accumulating a lot of advantages in terms of experience and understanding of your market and your segments. So you're establishing a moat in terms of economies of experience, if you want, and understanding of the market. And then you get to the point where you start seeing reaping the benefits of your, you start seeing start building traction, and that is phenomenal. That you refined your concept, you iterated, you made it better to the point that companies now are using it and are interested in expanding their initial pilot projects to large enterprise deals. This is obviously phenomenal. But you don't get to that point if you give up. No matter what, the execution towards your North Star, day by day, little progress every day, learn, do things better, try not to make the same mistakes, and persevere. You eventually get there. If you do that, the only option is success at a certain point. Learn, iterate, make it better. At a certain point, that ends with success.
Of course. I love it. That's massive. Well, Dario, this has been a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much. I think what you're building hits on a pain point almost every company is dealing with. I mean, too many meetings, too much wasted time, not enough serendipity, right? So, I mean, for anyone who wants to learn more or explore how this could work in their own organization, where's the best place for them to connect with you?
Tweenlin.com, LinkedIn to connect with me. Just send me a note on LinkedIn and say, you heard the podcast, Yarek's podcast. I'd like to have a conversation with you. Always happy to do so.
That's amazing. So TWEELIN.com, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Amazing. So Dario, thank you so much for joining us. And to everyone listening, if this episode sparked ideas, please share it with someone on your team who complains about meetings, and make sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. To be honest, we're everywhere. So we'll be having more conversations with founders and innovators solving real business problems. So Dario, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll see everybody on the next episode.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been such a great pleasure. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you, Dario.